What's up guys, Nick here from Southside Fishing, and I just stepped outside because I was planning on going fishing, seeing if I could knock out another video for you guys. And it's about 28 degrees, so I was like, you know what, no, too cold, I'm going to stay inside and see if I can get basically see if I can still get a good video for you guys. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you guys my top 5 favorite springtime bass fishing lures. So without further ado, let's get into it. Okay, so we're at that weird time in Chicago again where they claim it's spring, but it's still like 30 degrees outside. I believe it's April 19th, so technically it is spring, you know, late April, but people aren't really wanting to go out and fish at all. You know, like 30 degrees is pretty cold. They think that the fish are not going to be in there yet since the water's temps probably in the lower 40s still. So. But you can catch fish, and I've actually heard, I was just at a bait shop the other day, I heard that the smallmouth are starting to move back in. They're not in there thick, but they are starting to move back in. So in these next couple of days, weeks, they're going to start getting in there pretty thick, and they're going to start bedding. And when they're bedding, that is honestly my favorite time to go fish for them because, one, you can sight fish, and sight fishing is really fun. These harbors around Chicago have really clear water, so it's pretty easy to see them. Another reason why sight fishing is one of my favorite types of fishing for bass, because they're aggressive. When you throw a bait onto the bed, they're gonna smack it, and it's awesome to watch them eat it. It's just a really good experience, honestly. So yeah, like I said, they're not in there thick, but there are a couple in there, so we're gonna be going after them, seeing if we can get some nice fat smallies. So without further ado, let's get into my top 5 favorite springtime baits for smallmouth and largemouth bass. Okay, so how I'm gonna be doing this is going based on by water temp. So early spring, meaning the water is, let's say, high 30s, low 40s, then progressing on to later spring, early summer, things like that, where the water temperature starts to rise. So we're gonna start at low, let's say high 38s, low 40s, even mid 40s. First thing I'm gonna be throwing, just because I really love hard baits, is jerk baits. To be more specific, stick style jerk baits. So not anything jointed. And by jointed, I mean jerk baits like this. This is a Rapala Husky jerk. As you see, it's jointed here. And so it gives it a more of a, people want to say natural action, but I feel more erratic action. And when that water's really cold, the fish aren't really looking for erratic. They're looking for an easy meal because they're lethargic and they do not want to chase after something. They don't want to work really hard to get their meal. So this is a no-go. What I would be throwing is stick bait style jerk baits. I don't know if that makes any sense, but things that do not have joints. They are one solid piece of plastic or balsa wood, like this. This is a live target. I don't know what kind of live target it is. All I know is it's a live target jerk bait. Or something like this, or a Rapala Shadow Wrap. Or something like this. This is a Lucky Craft pointer. This is a small one. I have a bigger one. It's all up to you. You switch around and see what the fish want. Jerk baits work really good in clear water where the fish can see it and really key in on it. Now when the water's really cold, you want to fish this slow, and I'm talking really slow, like jerk, pause for upwards of 30-45 seconds. Because like I said before, the fish really do not want to chase and work hard for their meal. And by fishing it slow, you have that chance of popping it just the right spot where it's just sitting in front of the fish's face and he can just swallow it up without having to do any work. There are copious amounts of jerk baits. All you gotta do is figure out which one works for you, and I guarantee if you fish it the right way, for the right water temp, you will catch fish. Now let's say the water's warming up. It's in that upper 40s to low 50s. The fish are gonna be a little bit more active because the water's warmer. They're gonna start feeding so that they can get prepared to move up shallow to bed. And what I like to throw is another hard bait, that being crankbaits and rattle traps. And when I say crankbaits, I'm talking about tight wobble crankbaits, not those wide wobbles that displace a lot of water. First, let's talk about rattle traps, like this. This is a Rapala, I believe. I don't remember the make. As you see, it's chartreuse with a little bit of black and orange. This works really good for that somewhat stained to dirty water. The fish will be able to see it better. It's got rattles in it, bunch of little BBs in it. Makes a lot of noise to get that fish's attention in that stained water. This is a Rapala clacking wrap. This works really good, especially in springtime. Red, the color red works really good. Bass feed on crawfish. They key on in this color because crawfish are an easy meal for the bass to get. You could also throw a red-eye shad. This is Strike King's red-eye shad. As you can see, actually, it's been through hell and back. I caught numerous fish on this. I've actually messed up the hooks. I gotta change those out on some big fish. So this chrome color works really good, and like I said before, with the red eye, they key in on that red, think it's a crawfish. Let's move on to crankbaits. I really only have a few flat-sided crankbaits just because I don't fish them too often, but when I do fish them, they are very effective. This is a Strike King flat-sided crankbait. It dives to about 6 to 8 feet depending on what line you use. But as you see, it has a very, very flat side, which means that wobble is going to be really tight, not displacing a lot of water. Again, like I said, these fish are still kind of lethargic. They are thinking about feeding and they are starting to feed, but they still don't want something that has a really wide wobble that displaces a lot of water. Alright, that's it for the hard baits for now. Let's move on to some soft plastics. Alright, so let's say the water's warmed up even more. It's in that 55 to 65 degree range. The fish are in full-on spawn mode. They're sitting on their beds, guarding their eggs. If the water's clear enough, the first thing I am throwing is a soft plastic. Something like this. This is a lizard. I think this is a Berkley power bait lizard. Works really, really good for sight fishing, especially with that chartreuse tail. You can see it really good in the water. Bass hate lizards. They do not want these things on their beds. They will eat this thing in a heartbeat. Another bait I'm throwing is a craw like this Berkley one here. These work really good because, like I said previously, bass really key on crawfish and they hate them and they're an easy meal. Crawfish eat their eggs. They're going to destroy this thing. Tons of different colors. It's up to you on what you can see in the water and what you feel like you want to throw. Same for the lizard. Tons of different colors. It's really up to you. So without further ado, let's move on to number 4 on my top 5 list. Alright, coming in at number 4 on my list is basically any type of worm, finesse style worm. There's hundreds of them out there. It's up to you. You choose your style, you choose your poison. Come in variety different lengths. I think this one is an 8-inch finesse style worm. You've got the shorter ones. This is like a 4-inch finesse style worm, 6-inch, things like that. It's up to you. And they're really easy to rig. You can Texas rig them. You can rig them on a shaky head like this. You could even wacky rig them if you want to. But all you do is you work them slow off the bottom and you get bites. It's as simple as that. Alright, moving on for number 4, let's hit the 5th and final bait on my list. My 5th bait and my favorite, hands down favorite, especially because I'm in Chicago. Chicago has smallmouth. My favorite bait is a tube. Doesn't really matter which color, as long as it's a tube. These are killer for smallmouth bass. Largemouth like them too, but not as much as smallmouth do. They see these things and they just annihilate them. They're supposed to mimic a goby. In Chicago, we have a lot of gobies. Gobies eat smallmouth eggs and therefore the smallmouth hate them. Every single time if I'm sight fishing, if I throw this bait on their bed, I hook up immediately. They absolutely hate them. You fish this the same as you would a jig or a grub or a finesse style worm, bouncing it off the bottom slow, and I promise you, you will get bites on this. Now you need to rig it up with a tube jig head. Let me show you that, 1 second. This is a tube jig head. It is a specially designed jig head meant for tubes. As you see, it fits right inside of the tube perfectly. There's a little hollow spot in the tube. In fact, the whole inside of the tube is hollow. That is for this jig head to fit up inside perfectly. Well, there you have it, guys. That's my top 5 springtime bass fishing lures. My favorite lures to use in the springtime. Hope you guys found this video informative and it helps you guys catch more fish during the springtime. As always, like, comment, subscribe, and hit that bell notification right next to the subscribe button so that you guys are notified every time I upload. YouTube has a funny way of not informing the subscribers when the YouTubers upload. So if you could, hit that bell, it helped me out a lot. Thanks. You got to let it go. Let it go.